Without objection.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. One of the issues that we've been talking a lot about on this floor and across this country has been about cap and tax. And cap and tax is nothing more than it's going to be a massive national energy tax. And I have a very unique district in the 5th Congressional District of Ohio. It's interesting in that I represent not only the largest manufacturing district in the state of Ohio, but I also represent the largest agricultural district in the state of Ohio. And as we've been talking about this, there's been a lot of information that's being put out there by a lot of different groups, but I think it's interesting to point out that the Heritage Foundation and just last week the Brookings Institute has also put out how many jobs are going to be lost by this. The Heritage Foundation is estimating that you're looking at anywhere from over 1.5 million jobs being lost. You're carrying it out to the end date with the Brookings Institute is about 2.5%. We can't afford to have this happening in the United States. Because when you look at what the Heritage Foundation did, they did a very interesting study. They did what they called a manufacturing vulnerability index. They took all 435 districts across the Congress. They said what was the amount of energy that you used and what type of energy it was. And in my case in the state of Ohio, we receive 87% of our energy is coal generated. Next door to us, to my west, is Indiana. They get 94%. So when they ranked all these districts together, the question was, okay, where did you stand? And this is one of those times that you don't want to be at the top of the list. Of the top 20 districts in the United States, according to this Manufacturing Vulnerability Index, the top 16 of the top 20 were from Ohio and Indiana. And unfortunately, in my case, I came in number 3. Number 3. And what's that going to mean? It's going to be tough to get jobs in Northwest Ohio, North Central Ohio, and we're having a tough time right now because we have a manufacturing district. And if we don't have those jobs and we don't have that electricity that we can turn on in the morning to make sure that those plants can run, we're not going to have people working. And it's not only just going to be affecting the folks on the industrial side and the manufacturing side, because I said I also have the largest agricultural district in the state of Ohio. And one of the things that's tough out there is that there are a lot of farmers in my district that not only farm full-time, but they have a job also full-time off the farm. And they have to balance the two together. And they're working long, long hours, especially if they're in the agricultural and on the livestock side. So these folks are worried about not only having to turn on the energy at the workplace, but also the workplace on the farm. And as we've seen some of these numbers being calculated as what it might cost for a family of 4 with cap and tax, you're talking about, in some cases, right off the bat, $1,500 additional for a family of 4. And all the way out in the out year, it's being calculated up to $4,800. But let's also put this in context what it's going to do on the farm income side. It's estimated by the Heritage Foundation that by the year 2012, you're going to see a drop of about $8 billion in farm income. In 2024, $25 billion. And in 2035, $50 billion. So you're seeing decreases in farm income of 28, 60, and 94%. Respectively. You're going to see a total decrease from 2010 to 2035 of 57% in the total decrease in the baseline for farm income out there. And the question is, how are farmers going to survive in this country? It's going to be tough. Ag construction costs are estimated because of cap and tax is going to go up 10% by the year 2034. By 2035, and here's a real tough one for farmers because a lot of course, everything you're doing is out there in the field. Gas and diesel prices are going to go up 58%. Electricity costs on the farm, 90%. 90%. So when you're already out there struggling right there to make a living on the farm, it's going to be very difficult with these numbers to do it. And then we have to think about this. Where are these young farmers going to go? We were trying to get more younger people out on these farms. But we all know right now equipment costs are high. We all know that land prices are high. But then when you add all these costs up and you put these electricity costs in, you put the energy costs in, you put the fertilizer costs in, all these are all driven by energy costs, it's going to hit home real quick. We're going to have fewer and fewer people out on the farm. It's estimated we have less than 2% of Americans farming today, less than 2%. In Ohio, it's under 1%. But they're feeding us all, and we should be thankful for them. The co-ops in my district and across this, because not only my district, but the state and the country, are very fearful about this. These electric co-ops out there are worried because if they have to buy more green energy, those costs are going to have to be passed on to the end user.
That's the farmer, the manufacturer, the senior, the family, and they're all worried about it. But who's our competition? You know, last week we had the Ag Secretary before us in the Agriculture Committee, and we asked a question about China. And China is not going to abide by cap and tax. And in fact, the day that we had that hearing, they said that they were not going to abide by cap and tax. And I would ask that this legislation be defeated. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman